You've seen it in movies 100 times. A massive ship drops anchor and that heavy metal hook plunges down, digs deep into the ocean floor and holds the vessel in place like a stake driven into the ground. It's such a clear image in our heads. The anchor buries itself, grabs hold, and stops the ship from drifting. But what if the anchor isn't actually digging in at all? What if holding a ship in place has almost nothing to do with grabbing the seabed? And here's the strangest part. What if most of the time, the anchor isn't even touching the bottom the way you think it is? The truth is far more elegant than the cartoon version we all grew up with. And once you see how it actually works, you'll realize that sometimes the best solutions don't fight against a force, they work with it. So let's talk about what's really going on here. When a ship needs to stop in open water, it's facing a constant problem. Wind, current, and waves are trying to push it in every direction. A large ship can weigh tens of thousands of tons, and even gentle currents can start moving it. The challenge isn't just stopping the ship once, it's keeping it in roughly the same position for hours or even days, despite all those forces constantly trying to shove it around. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They imagine the anchor drops straight down, the flukes dig into the mud or sand, and the ship is locked in place. But that's not how it works. The anchor isn't a stake, it's part of a system. And the most important part of that system isn't even the anchor itself, it's the chain. Here's what actually happens. When a ship drops anchor, it doesn't just drop the anchor. It releases a huge length of heavy chain, sometimes 5 to 10 times the depth of the water. That chain lies along the seabed in a long, flat curve. The anchor settles lightly on the bottom, often just resting there, not buried at all. And here's the key. When the ship tries to drift, the pull isn't vertical, it's horizontal along the seabed. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to drag a heavy rope across the floor. If you pull straight up, the rope lifts easily. But if you pull horizontally, you have to overcome the weight and friction of the entire rope lying flat on the ground. That's what the chain does. It creates massive resistance simply by lying there, heavy and flat. The ship can drift a little, taking up slack, but it can't drift far because it would have to lift the weight of all that chain off the seabed. And chain is incredibly heavy, often several tons per section. So the common assumption is that the anchor is a hook that grabs and holds. The reality is that the anchor is just a stabilizer at the end of a much more important system, the weight and friction of the chain spread across the ocean floor. The anchor keeps the chain from sliding too much, but it's the chain doing most of the actual work. What does this give us? First, the system is flexible. The ship can move slightly with waves and wind without breaking free because the chain absorbs that movement. Second, it's incredibly strong. The friction of hundreds of feet of heavy chain lying flat creates far more holding power than any hook could by digging in. Third, it works on almost any seabed, whether it's mud, sand, rock, or coral. You don't need perfect conditions for the anchor to bite. Fourth, it's self-adjusting. If the wind shifts, the chain simply repositions itself. And fifth, it's surprisingly gentle. Because the pull is horizontal and distributed, there's far less chance of dragging or damaging the seabed compared to a deeply buried anchor being yanked around. Here's something most people don't know. This principle has been understood for centuries, but it was refined during the age of sail in the 1700s and 1800s. Sailors discovered through trial and error that using more chain and less reliance on the anchor's grip made ships far more secure in harbor. Modern ships still use almost the same technique, just with stronger materials and more precise calculations. And this isn't just a trick for a few old ships. From container vessels in Singapore to fishing boats off the coast of Norway, from oil tankers in the Gulf of Mexico to research ships in the Antarctic, every anchored vessel in the world is relying on this same elegant physics: weight, friction, and a long, heavy chain lying flat on the seabed. So the next time you see a ship at anchor, picture what's really happening below the surface. It's not gripping, it's not buried, it's just lying there, using weight and friction to quietly resist the ocean's constant push. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most brilliant. And if this changes the way you see things, maybe take a moment to question other assumptions you've never thought to check. The world is full of quiet engineering that's far more clever than it first appears.